Bonjour and good afternoon. I am here with Miss Olivo. And Miss Olivo, today we will be making eggplant parmesan, which was requested by Miss Wojciech, the gym teacher, as well as Mr. DiVincenzo. So guys, this one's for you. Let's talk about the eggplant first before we begin. Mr. Dutcher, if you want to come over here for a second, take a shot at the eggplant. There's a few different types of eggplant. There's probably about, I'd say, about 5 or 6 different
yes,
types.
Absolutely.
So this is the standard one. This is called the American eggplant or the globe eggplant. All right. And then the other one is the Chinese eggplant. You can feel the texture of the skin. It's a lot softer. This is probably a lot more tender, not as bitter. I would use this something for more like if I was grilling vegetables or something like that. So today we're going to use the globe eggplant, which is this one.
Yeah.
And what I like to do is I like to take my eggplant and I remove the skin. I can show you how to do that real quick. All right, so remove the skin from the eggplant. It's very simple. All you're going to do is take your knife and you're going to whittle it down like that, and work it all the way around, you know, to your left with the white fleshy part. All right, so there's 2 ways to take some of the bitterness out of this eggplant. All right, the first way would be to soak it in salted water, or very simply you could do with Miss Olivo's going to show you over here. All right, those have been already sliced, already peeled, already sliced, and each layer has been salted with paper towels to absorb some of the moisture which contains the bitterness out of the eggplant. So before we begin making the eggplant parmesan, we want to wash away that salt. Otherwise, the eggplant parmesan is going to be extremely salty. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that.
We're going to put this in here in the colander and rinse it off. So we'll do that. Now, Mr. Boone, I have a question for you. Since you were peeling the eggplant with a knife, would you use a peeler as well?
It's kind of hard to do because it's not like peeling a carrot or a potato. Like the skin gets kind of caught in the peeler sometimes. So I usually use either a chef knife, or you could also use a serrated knife, which might even be a little bit easier because the serrated knife has the teeth, and you could just work your way down slowly. You know, almost like you're taking the skin off of a cantaloupe or a pineapple, something like that. You got to work your way, you know, down, starting from the top and go down each piece.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't think a peeler would be as easy as it would be with a knife. You know, you just got to make sure you're taking off the purple and not the edible part.
Okay.
You know, and in regards to the skin, I prefer to take my skin off, but some people keep the skin on. So it all depends what you like to do.
Okay.
So
we're going to dry this
Ms.
off.
Olivo has washed it off the salt and the bitterness as well. And now we're going to pat dry the eggplant.
Okay, so we're going to lay it down.
Lay it down. Dry. All right. So while Miss Olivo is doing that, some of our other mise en place this is all-purpose flour, which has been seasoned with kosher salt and black pepper. All right. I'm going to crack 3 eggs and put them into another pan. So the standard breading procedure is flour, eggs, and breadcrumbs. I'm not going to use breadcrumbs because I think the coating makes the eggplant a little bit too heavy. I know, again, some people like to use the breadcrumbs. I prefer not to. All right, so we're going to go only with flour, and then egg, and then fry. So I have some oil, some vegetable oil in the bottom, in my pan right here. Just enough to coat the bottom, probably a little bit more than that. It's already heating up. Okay, so Miss Olivo, you can start with the flour.
Okay.
I'm going to crack some eggs over on your other side.
Okay. And I'm going to drop them in here. Drop them in. Flour them. And let me grab a pair of tongs from over here so that we'll be able to turn them around. I'll need another pair of eggs.
And I'm going to whisk up my eggs.
Mr. Boone, I have a question for you.
Yes, Mr. Delcher.
How do you how do you crack an egg with one hand?
How do you crack it with one hand?
Like, I always use, 2 hands to crack an egg open. Like, is it
It's
just
nothing more than practice.
practice?
Yes. I was 14 years old. I started working at a breakfast, a Waffle House down the Jersey Shore.
Wow.
And what happened was the renters, like on a typical Saturday, renters were waiting to get in. People that were there, and that was their last day. They would have one last meal as a family. So it was incredibly busy, and I just learned how to crack eggs, going as fast as possible. So some chefs can do 2 hands at the same time using, just cracking them simultaneously. That I cannot do.
That's pretty funny. All right, so we've got some eggplant breaded here. And I have
Oh, thank you.
that for you, so you can take the eggplant
Okay.
while I get some more.
All right, so I'm going to shake off some of the excess, and I'm going to lay it. I'm going to coat it on both sides. All right. And as we demonstrated previously, once you are done with the egg and once you are done with the flour, don't save this for anything else. Make sure you discard it. Don't try to utilize it for something else. You don't want to cross-contaminate anything. All right, so these I cut into approximately 1/2-inch discs. How long do you keep them salted for? You could keep them after you slice them. You could salt each layer with layer paper towels in between each layer for approximately 30 to 60 minutes. All right, and when you put them in the oil, you might want to test it a little bit, and you see how it starts to crackle. So we want both sides to be golden brown. So if I had a candy thermometer and I wanted to test the temperature of my oil should be approximately 365 degrees. All right, I'm going to cook each side for approximately, I would say, 2 to 3 minutes. Ms. Olivo, would you consider this dish to be vegetarian?
It is vegetarian.
And you were speaking to me earlier in regards to there's many variations of ways to make this, and one of the things that you like to add is what, instead of just the cheese and instead of the Parmesan and mozzarella cheese, what else do you like to add?
So sometimes people will add ricotta cheese to it. If you're making a vegetable, you can make a vegetable lasagna with the eggplant. I like eggplant rigatoni. Some Spanish eggplant dishes would include codfish. And
codfish, that sounds good.
And some Spanish plantains, yes, because it's just just really, really delicious with the codfish.
That does sound good.
We'll have to put that on our list of dishes to make. But I have a lot of eggplant in my garden, so I have to try to find a lot of different ways to cook it.
And when you grow your own eggplant, how long does it take to fully mature?
So it depends on the varieties. I do grow some Japanese eggplant, some Italian eggplant, baby eggplant, ivory eggplant. So usually we plant them in March. I don't plant them from seed. I have transplants. So in the late summer is usually when we'll have some fruits available to us and vegetables. So by late July and August we'll have some
kind of like usually when New Jersey corn is about ready.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So and definitely into the fall as well.
Okay. So I'm going to flip these over now, and we're going to see the nice golden brown color that has developed on the eggplant. We're going to do the same thing to the other side. Mr. Dutcher, is that you singing in the background?
Da, 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 da. Of course, Mr. Bono.
I'm making well, Miss Olivo and I are making a small casserole dish just to demonstrate on how to make the eggplant. But you know, normally if I make it for my entire family or for a party, something like that, I would probably do layers in an aluminum pan like this. But for demonstration purposes, we're just going to show you how to do something in a small casserole dish. All right, so as we did previously with the stuffed shells, we're going to put a thin layer of marinara sauce on the bottom. And again, if you have time, you want to make homemade marinara sauce, that would even give your dish more flavor. And of course, it would be homemade. But we're just going to use a little bit of marinara on the bottom of the pan, okay? All right, so our discs are just about ready. I'm going to remove each disc. And as you can see, they're golden brown on both sides. And this is going to be similar to making lasagna, except you're not going to be using the ricotta cheese in this instance. All right, so while those are, the oil is getting absorbed by the paper towel, I'm going to add some more to the pan.
Now, Mr. Boone, have you ever tried it with a different type of sauce, like maybe a pesto sauce?
I have tried it with the pesto.
Mm-hmm.
You can also use it, I've also made it with the bechamel sauce too.
Oh, wow.
But I just prefer not to use the breading. I think the breading makes it a lot heavier.
Mm-hmm.
I know some restaurants and some chefs do use the you know, panko breadcrumbs or something like that. But you know, again, if you look on the internet, there's many different recipes on how to make eggplant parmesan. These got really tender. I can feel how soft they are from the amount of time that these have been sitting with the salt sprinkled over the top of them, and they're going to taste much more tender as opposed to just cutting them and doing the same procedure. You're releasing the bitterness of the eggplant. So. All right, you can put those in there if you like.
Mr. Bone.
Yes, Mr. Belcher.
When in this process do you start to preheat your oven?
You probably want to start that now. I mean, as you can see, the oven temperature is already on 350. But you want to start that probably about now. If you were gonna do a pan of this size, it would probably take you a good maybe 20 minutes to, I would say at least 20 minutes, you know, to fill this up with the layers. But something of, you know, this small, you could probably turn it on and your oven temperature will probably be ready in about 10 to 15 minutes.
And when you're trying to make a pan about the size of those aluminum pans,
Yes.
how many eggplants am I going to need?
Are you talking in regards to the globe eggplants that we're using today?
Yes.
Yes.
How
I would
many of
say
those
you
would
need
I
probably
need?
you probably would need here it is. You probably would need at least 2 of these. You know, but these are relatively inexpensive. Well, how much do you think these are a pound, Miss Olivo?
Sometimes maybe between 99 cents and $1.49 a
Yeah,
pound.
very inexpensive. This is the most expensive thing to make. The most expensive ingredient here is probably the mozzarella cheese, wouldn't you say?
Yes,
Yeah.
cheese, I agree.
So, Dutch, you're really hitting those high notes today. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, and I know I mentioned this in school, sometimes when students are grilling vegetables or when they're frying or making, maybe when we made chicken parmesan, is when you take an item out of the pan and you put them on, you know, something on paper towels for the oil to absorb, don't stack them on top of each other, because what happens to the ones on the bottom? What happens is the heat does not escape very well, and the eggplant discs that are on the bottom, or the chicken on the bottom, or the grilled vegetables on the bottom, once you keep piling it on top, the ones on the bottom are not going to be able to properly cool, and they're going to become very soggy.
So another thing that we've used instead of paper towels sometimes is bread to absorb the
Oh, that's a good
oil.
idea as well. Yeah. years ago when I was doing a buffet catering somewhere, we used to have a Sunday brunch, and we would use the bread to put in the bottom of the chafing pan before we put the bacon on top.
Absolutely.
So because the bread, like you said, it absorbs the oil. So. All right, so I'm going to continue to fry these, and I'm going to give Miss O my casserole dish,
Okay.
and she's going to start building the layers.
Okay.
All right. So you want me to wash off a pair of tongs?
Oh, yep. We'll have
Okay.
to wash off a pair of tongs. And then we are going to layer with the eggplant,
Right.
and then a little bit of herbs.
Right.
And
That's a combination of fresh parsley and basil,
okay.
and then we're gonna do mozzarella cheese, Parmesan cheese, and then pea.
Okay. Now the mozzarella cheese and the Parmesan cheese, have they been mixed already in this
No,
bowl?
no.
Okay. So
There you
we're
go.
gonna have to add them. Thank you.
All right, and I'm gonna continue to fry.
So what we will do is I'm gonna do one pat just to make sure we get most of the grease up if it hasn't been already absorbed.
Okay. And this is not, as you can see, this is not deep frying. This is called pan frying. Okay. You just need enough oil, just a bit to cover the bottom. I would say maybe about 1/4 of an inch the most. All right. Your heat should be on. I have mine on 3. Anywhere medium low is fine.
So we're gonna put these right in here in the dish. Looks great, nice golden color. And like you said, they seem very tender.
Yeah, they are. And if you're making an amount, again to fill an aluminum pan, you probably want to saute or pan fry them using 2 pans at the same time.
So you can get them done quickly, right?
Yeah.
So we'll put a little bit of Parmesan cheese on, or mozzarella cheese.
You can also do a layer of prosciutto if you wanted to as well.
Right.
Of course it would not be vegetarian at that point, but the flavor from the saltiness from the prosciutto would be really good flavor to add to that.
So do we need lots of cheese? Or we're good?
A sprinkle again, just a sprinkle. Let's try to do 3 layers.
3 layers,
total.
okay.
Yeah. And then you might want to. I'll give you a spatula. You're gonna push it down a little bit.
Wash it down a little so we can get that in. I'm sprinkling the Parmesan on top.
Okay, and then I'll give you this to push it down, and you're gonna do another layer. Now, as Miss O is building up her layers, the last layer, like the first layer, she's gonna put marinara sauce over that last layer, and then mozzarella cheese, and then finish it with a little bit of Parmesan. All right, but the middle layers that we're doing right now, it's just Parmesan and mozzarella.
Okay. So this is layer number 2.
I love the suggestion of the prosciutto because I love prosciutto.
Do you?
What you could do as well is you could crisp the prosciutto first and then put it in.
That sounds delicious too.
And all you have to do is take your slices, put them in the oven for maybe 5 to 6 minutes, because in most places when you buy prosciutto, it's usually cut paper thin, and then just put that in the oven on a sheet pan with some aluminum foil, and your prosciutto will be nice and crispy. Which you could also use in salads as well.
You definitely can use it in salads. I had a chance to go to Italy and have some fresh prosciutto.
Oh, you did.
Oh my goodness, it was delicious.
One of the things I always hear about Italy is they don't use a lot of preservatives.
They do not. And so when I went to Torino for the Slow Foods Conference where 160 countries convened, but they had a area where all of Italy was represented. So all of the regions came, and so wherever prosciutto was made, then it was all prosciutto. Then they had all of the cheese made from Parma. So you got a chance to really taste everything from each region.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
So, yeah, it was delicious.
I'd like to get out there someday.
I'm sure
Not anytime soon, though.
Yeah, we have to be super cautious now with travel. All right, so this will be our last layer that we're going to put on. And then after we put on this layer, then we'll add the sauce. And top it off.
And then we're going to go a little bit heavier with the mozzarella.
Right.
And then the Parmesan. And then we're going to finish that in the oven at no more than 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay, right.
Maybe,
Because
maybe not
everything
even that long.
So the eggplant is cooked, and we're just basically kind of browning the.
Correct.
The cheese melting.
One of the things that we're gonna, of course, stop the video and then turn it back on once this is done is when the eggplant Parmesan is done, almost like similar to lasagna. When you take this out of the oven, you do not want to cut it and serve it right away because it's gonna ooze out and the layers are not gonna be firm and have a nice appearance on the plate. Mr. Delcher, have you been taking singing lessons?
Had a lot of time during this current state of affairs.
Okay, so now we put on our last layer of
Okay,
eggplant.
let's try to push that down a little bit more.
Push it a little more, like you said. You don't want it to overflow outside of the pan.
Now, as you can see, Miss O, the layers are getting very close to the top. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a cookie pan to put this on, because if we put this in the oven and it overflows, then you're going to have the oven. It's going to smoke, set off the smoke alarm, and that's something that you don't want to do nowadays.
Correct.
Mr. Bone's wife will not be happy.
This will be your last week over, Mr. Delcher.
So we're all done with that.
Okay.
So this is your last plate there.
All right. This over here.
Okay, for your eggplant. So now we're going to do, so now you want us to put the sauce on top of the last layer. And after we do the sauce,
to move that around a little bit?
Actually, I should have put the top on and just shake it in here. I can do that.
You can spread it around with the spoon if you like. There you go.
Shake, shake, shake. And then we will put this on.
One of the things that I've always heard about Europeans and dining and stuff like that is they really take the time to, as Americans, I think we're in so much of a hurry all the time where we're into fast food and, going through the drive-in and things like that. Whereas the, people in Italy learn how to not only appreciate each other more, but converse and really appreciate their food and spend more time, talking and, instead of just eating on the run all the time as we do.
So actually, that's how the Slow Food Organization was started, because Carlo Petrini started the organization because they wanted to open a McDonald's in Rome.
Really?
So it's called slow food because it's the opposite of fast food, where we return to cooking food at home and sitting down at a meal with our family at the table and enjoying that. So I think that you're right.
How long were you out there for?
So I've been twice in 2016 because it's the conference is every 2 years and it's about 5 days. So I stayed with the host family both times.
Oh, nice.
And so I stayed for the full 5 days.
Wow, wow.
So it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Another question I want to ask you, have you ever made a fresh mozzarella?
I have seen people make fresh mozzarella, but I have not myself made it.
Right. I've done it twice, and I know the shop right over in West Caldwell. They make it. I think it's every Friday and Saturday.
Oh wow!
When you go over there, they give you these like little chunks of samples, and nothing is better than fresh mozzarella, and it's still warm and creamy, and it's delicious.
Everything fresh is delicious and tastes so much better. You can taste the difference.
Definitely.
That's why I can't wait until I get out into the garden and start tasting some of my fresh tomatoes, because it's not the same as anything that you can get in the supermarket. Okay, so I usually like to kind of form a border just in case, like
That's
you
smart.
said.
Yeah, good idea.
So that
kind of like a trough.
Exactly, so that nothing kind of goes out on the edge when we put it in the oven.
One thing we wanted, this was requested by a few teachers, but we'd like to have students give us some ideas as well, besides some of the faculty members who have been watching these videos. Being the fact that it looks like we're going to be here for at least a few more weeks. If any student, either in my class or your class as well, Miss O, wanted to give any suggestions, we'd be definitely open to them. If, something that they would like to learn how to make, please let us know. Give any type of suggestions that you would like to, and we could, try to create that as well.
And there you have it.
All right, so we're going to get this in the oven.
Beautiful.
All right. Again, 15 minutes. All right, I'm going to put it on the upper rack.
And does it
Okay.
make a difference what rack do you put it on?
The upper rack is gonna make it heat a little bit faster.
Okay.
Cook a little bit faster. You know, I got this on speed bake, so you know this oven is not only conventional oven, which is an oven that doesn't have a fan. It's a convection oven as well.
Right.
So using the speed bake or the quick bake makes the time go faster. Almost like most restaurants have a convection oven because
Right.
we don't have a lot of time to wait for items to be done because we have a population of customers that are waiting to eat outside. So we will be back in a few minutes and we will show you the completed dish.
See you soon.
Okay, we're back. As you can see, the eggplant parm, I took it out about 20 minutes ago. It's set now. It has a nice golden brown crust on the top. And I'm going to use this little spatula.
Very nice, nifty looking spatula there.
This is my my wife's Pampered Chef spatula. She uses mostly for cookies, but to get something out of the pan that's kind of small, like in a small casserole just like this, it works really nicely. So it's got a nice, square finish. Let's see how it goes.
Pretty sharp.
Yeah.
Nice.
So if you were going to make this amount, I mean, this would be, more than enough for 2 portions. You could serve this with, some Italian bread, a nice salad.
Nice salad.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that. And it's a good thing you let it rest.
Yeah. And you can see how the everything's kind of come together.
Yeah.
Get rid of that cheese. All right.
And wipe it off to...
Wipe up the sides. So you want to wipe up the sides?
Sure.
And then over here, I saved a little bit of the chiffonade. This is a chiffonade of basil. Remember, chiffonade means cut into thin strips. Okay, so just like I did earlier, we rolled it up. I rolled it up to a cigar shape, cut it into thin strips, and now we're going to use it as a garnish.
We're going to garnish it around the plate.
Some people would prefer or might ask at a restaurant for a little bit of a side of marinara sauce, possibly.
All set.
All right.
There you
All right.
are.
Go ahead. You want to serve it?
I will serve it to Mr. Delcher, who's sitting down over here. All right. There you are, Mr. Delcher.
Thank you, Mr. Olivo. Thank you, Mr.
Oh,
Boone.
you're welcome, Mr. Delcher.
I guess I am the official taste tester of the day
You are.
That's one of the reasons you're here. Not only are you a sous chef,
and a cameraman.
a cameraman, taste tester.
Taste tester.
Before you eat that, can you describe it to us a little bit?
Oh, it's definitely easy to cut. It's nice and, soft, nice and put together. It's not like falling
Not runny?
apart. It's not runny.
Yes.
I can definitely smell the fresh herbs.
Yeah, so. And since you didn't use a whole lot of breading, I could definitely taste the eggplant.
Right,
so
right.
It's really
that's,
good.
That's the purpose of not using the eggplant. It doesn't taste, the breading, because it doesn't taste heavy. You get that light tasting of the egg and the flour.
Delicious, Mr. Boone.
Thank you. Ms. Olivo, would you like to conclude?
See you next time.
Okay, thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.